Start then. Looking at the weekly chart. Actually, I'm going to go down a little bit lower because you can't really see the patterns that are playing out here. A couple of weeks ago, the correction that I was looking for was something like that, where that could have been a running flat, and then this could have been a new impulse to go higher. The other option was that we were looking at was that this was an expanded flat, and that it could make another low after taking the highs out right here, which it didn't do that either. We just chopped around a little bit more, but what's interesting is we've kind of done an expanded flat. If my count, like if this, if for whatever reason this had to be 5 waves in here, 3, 4, and this was just a fifth wave that made a higher high, this would actually make sense for this to be an expanded flat right here, A, B, C. And so the C could be done. One of the reasons why I think it could be done too is because a couple weeks ago when we were looking at that, we said, or I was looking at the RSI coming back down here on the daily, because back in, I'll have to pull up a different, look at Coinbase. So back in 2017, like all these corrections in this uptrend right here, your RSI would reset to the daily. At least in these two right here, it reset to the daily. On the daily chart, it reset down here to like 30, and so we were still hovering like way above that up here. And I just felt like we needed to reset, and now we've reset down to here, so it's potential that the correction is done. And the count that I was kind of looking at for that would have been something like that, where this had to be a finishing 5 waves for maybe this 5 wave right here, so something like that. And then we can even put 5 waves on this, so 1, 2, and then this is 3, and then this could be some kind of quick 4, and then we have a 5. So this is potential that this is the count right here. Nope, it's not the color that I wanted. The only thing with that is this 4 would be very, very short in time. I mean, this 2 wasn't very long in time back here for the red 2, so every correction's been taken like not a lot of time at all. So I'm not sure if this would make sense or not, but it would basically be an expanded flat, taking out the high with the B, and then the C comes down, makes a lower low than the A, and then we have to come up for a 5. I'm not sure if that's likely or not. I mean, it's definitely got an expanded flat structure, because when you go down to like the lowest time frames, it's 3 down, 3 up. This 3 wave right here, normally it's usually a good opportunity to short, like when you have a resistance like this, and you make 3 waves higher, and then you break back down below this previous, because this right here looked like potentially, and honestly I don't even know if you can count this as a 5 wave right here, because it's 3 waves up. So it's just really weird, because like this looks like a 3 wave, this looks like a 3 wave, that looks like a 3 wave, this looks like a 3 wave. There was nothing impulsive about any of this structure in here that was kind of channeling, and so the likelihood of it breaking down, looking back on it, was quite high. And so the point I was trying to make right here, all these 3 wave moves, if it can't stay above each high, we had a false breakout right here on this high, it got choppy and came back down. This 3 wave move couldn't stay above that high, so as soon as it breaks back down below that, it was kind of a short signal. Not only that, you have this like trend line right here that was kind of offering support. When it broke through that, I mean, it just tanked. So a lot of people wonder why the price just tanks out of nowhere. And a lot of time it's strictly based on technicals like this, because a lot of people are watching that. Um, Something fundamentally could have pushed it to the point where it breaks these technical levels, and then you have even more of an acceleration. of a sell-off, but most all these sharp sell-offs have some kind of technical root to them, that cause the panic like this and for people to start exiting, because a lot of people are watching this kind of stuff, like especially this trend line right here. And so, but the point I was trying to make on this is just it's very three wave-ish. Everything in this was three wave-ish, so it just kind of looks really choppy and corrective. And and so when it couldn't hold that new high right there, it becomes resistance once it breaks down below, and then it accelerated quite quick when we broke that trend line. And now we are just retracing this move that we started from right here, which could have been some kind of five wave up. We're retracing that, and so we could either pull it from there if we think that was like a five wave move, or we can pull it to that peak since that actually is the highest. I would pull it from both. But if we pull it from there, you can see we came down to the 0.5 to the tick, and that's actually, I had entered a short yesterday. I have to go down to like an hourly. I entered a short on this because this structure was just looking super bearish. So I entered a short on this. These little bear flags like this tend to break down with some momentum, and so I was getting in somewhere right in here, and then I took profit as we reacted off this 0.5 right here that we were looking at. So this 0.5 was somewhat significant because it was pretty much the whole pivot from when we came off of this correction down here and put in this last move. And so I'm pulling the fib all the way to the top of that last breakout that we had that failed to stay above support right here. And so it came down to the 0.5. It's a little bit of a front run. Normally it is going to hit the 0.5, and I think on some exchanges it did, but on Coinbase it got front ran. On leverage, like on a perpetual or something like that, it might have went through it a little bit because then you have like liquidations that force a wick lower than the 0.5. But on spot exchanges, you'll have like algorithms bidding in, and there's just not a lot of not as many stops and liquidations as there would be like on a perpetual. So it like doesn't go through the 0.5. And so since we hit that 0.5 right there, that's another bit of confluence that the bottom could potentially be in. Let me get rid of some stuff. Put this back up here so we can actually see it. And so basically we're looking at, we kind of had a little bit of a channel going on right here that we've broken out of. Now what I'm looking for is I'm probably keeping everything short term because I think there's better opportunities in altcoins, which we'll look at in a minute. But I'm keeping everything kind of short term right now for my trades on Bitcoin anyway, if I'm looking for any kind of scalps or day trades. So right now, since all we've done is came off this 0.5, what I'll be looking for is, and not only that, we have divergence, like let's look at like the hourly. You can see the divergence between these 2 points. So that's a bullish divergence right there. So what my plan is whenever I have these playing out on any time frame really, but these time frames right here are a little bit more reliable, is I will wait for the divergence to play out, wait for the bounce, assuming I didn't get in, which when I was short here, I probably should have flipped long because I figured there would be some kind of reaction off the 0.5. I didn't know if it was going to be a reversal like that. But if you miss the long down here, basically what you do is you just wait. You know the divergence played out. You had a nice reaction. Just wait for the pullback to get in. And that's what I'm going to do right here is wait for this retrace. Wherever this decides to top out at, kind of looks like it's rolling over now. I don't know if that'll be the top or if we'll have to make one more little top. It could come down like this, and we have to kind of make one more top and then kind of come down. But what I'm going to be looking for is, assuming this is the top here, I would want to see some kind of move down. Considering how big this move was, and we have support right here, if this was the top, I would probably might even be trying to get some scalps off of this 382 because there's a little bit of support right in here. I mean, you look at this wick down, that was support all the way back here. Support, support, and then it was resistance, resistance, and now it's going to be support again, and it's right around that 382. And I would be going down as low as the 0.5 for a reaction. So if we do get some kind of pullback like this is what I would be buying. And I would be looking for, somewhere between the 0.382 and 0.5. And then I probably wouldn't give it much room because I would expect it to react in here. And then I could target the highs, or I could just do a 1-to-1 for a scalp. It just depends. I think that it's probably gonna move back to these highs again after coming down to this support. I would assume, and so that would probably be my setup right there, and see if I can hold this as kind of a swing back up to these local highs right here. Since we've broken structure and we've come off a bullish divergence, this is just standard for me to buy the first pullback. And normally I'd look for the 0.5, but since we have structural support right here at the 382, I'd probably be going ahead and at least laddering some in right here at the 382 down to the 0.5. The fib that's on the chart is, yeah, this is non-log, so I haven't unchecked. It's good to use log if you're like on the higher time frames and you're doing a fib for like a big move. So like this whole move right here, if you were doing a fib like on a move that's over 2 to 3x in price, you want to use log scale, because you can see how like your 786 is like way up here, but if I do log scale, you can see how everything shifts down. 786 is way down here now, so it's a lot more scaled properly. So yeah, the big one right here is non-log right here too. So if I do log on that one, it'll bring that 0.5 down, and we wouldn't have actually hit it. So if I do non-log, you can see the 0.5 comes down to here, and all we hit was a 382. But it's good to use both of them. You can use both. That's what I would do. It gives you a range. So you see how the 382 is what we hit on this one. And if I change it back, it gives you the 0.5. So you can actually draw both of them on here. So you can pull two fibs, like pull another one. And let's just do this and change this to log, and then put it on here. And then that way you have a range. So you see this little hot box right here between the 382 and the 0.5. That's where you could have been looking, because you're looking at both the log and the non-log fib. And when you're unsure on these bigger moves, like which one you should probably do, I would pull both and have one log, one non-log, and then have your little regions between like the 382.5. The 382 was the log, 0.5 is non-log, and here's the 0.5 for the log, and the 618 of the non-log. So if it was to keep going down, you have another hot box right here of support, which actually lines up with structural support down here. Previous high flipped to support, so if we would have kept coming down, that would have been the next area. And that's how I would look at it. So yeah, like right now we've had the divergence. It looks like we're kind of rolling over. You can see the RSI. I mean, price is rolling over. This bearish structure on the candlesticks. So if we do roll over, I'm going to look for it down here. The quicker that it comes down, the better, or the more conviction you can have to scale in. Like if this only took a few candles to come down, especially to like the 382 right here, I'd be buying it because it's a deviation, and it's probably going to have to do some kind of V-shape before deciding if it's going to roll over again or if it's going to continue higher. And so I would like to see a quick retrace, something like that, into this zone, and it would give a really nice long opportunity. If not just for a scalp like a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, you could also target the local high. So that's what I'm going to be looking for on Bitcoin. There's not really a lot to talk about because I don't know really what this is. I don't know if it's done on this higher time frame. I mean, it looks like an expanded flat. This A takes out the high, C takes out the A low. That looks like an expanded flat, but I mean, I really don't know for sure. And since the daily RSI did reset, um, back down here to the lower levels, which is what I was kind of wanting to see based in the past. Here in 2017, we can't always came back, so it's definitely potential that it could be the low. But I'm not really doing anything with Bitcoin. I feel like altcoins look a little more clear, and that's another reason I think Bitcoin low could be in, just because altcoins look kind of strong, and I feel like they're going to have to go up. Uh, they're going to have to go up in the short term. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the low. But currently, the best thing that we can do is just wait for the pullback and try to get in there. If you want to bank on it being the low, this would be the pullback to get in on and hold it for a longer term. So this would be the pullback to get in on between 382 and point 0.5 in here. If you believe this will be the low and we're actually going to make new highs, I mean, this is really the place to start building a position on this first pullback, because we have signs that it's done going down based on the bullish divergences. We've broken structure. So if anywhere to get in, it would be right here if you want to hold it and hope for it to go higher with a good risk to reward. But I'm just going to treat it like a day trade / swing trade. Probably just target local highs or something like that. Yeah, I'm going to upload today's stream. I'm recording it right now. I forgot to do last week's, or yeah, last Wednesday. I forgot to put that one up. Let's see. Let's look at Ripple is one that I'm really interested in, because I don't think it's anywhere near being done. I still feel like it's got to go to its all-time high. And currently we've just had a retest of support, or resistance, I mean, which was resistance. We broke out really strongly, came back and retested that. I'm expecting Ripple to gravitate towards the all-time high up here. And so the pullback was really the best place to get in. I ended up messing around and not buying the pullback. Whoops. The next best opportunity to get in was when we broke this diagonal right here, which didn't get in on that because there's like no pullback. So I was hoping for a little bit of a pullback, and I'm still waiting for a pullback, because if Bitcoin's going to give us the pullback, what I would expect on this, and what I'm kind of thinking this might be shaping up for, is some kind of like 1-2-1-2, which I've talked about in the past. If this is the first impulse, second, third's going to be way up here, 5, and then we have a second impulse inside the 3 wave of that one. And so it could be setting up for something like that, where I'm going to be looking for the pullback on this move. And it's kind of the same scenario. We might have to be looking at the 382, because we have all this structural support in here, where you had support, resistance, resistance, resistance. Now if we get a pullback into here, that might be where I'm going to start adding, because we also have the trend line coming down through here. So any kind of retrace into this zone all the way down to the 0.5, I'm going to want to be adding, because this could be a 1-2, and this could take a little more time to play out. Like, it could come down like this and then have to chop around before going higher. And then this would kind of give us this contracting looking channel that we'll have to kind of grind up and break out of. And this is what I talked about last week, or maybe the last 1 or 2 live streams, where we have these nested 1-2s like this, and it coils up a lot of energy right here in this channel. And once it breaks above and gets out of here, you end up with this explosive, expansive move that gives you like this, the third waves, all of your third waves, because these are all 1-2s nested, and they're coiling up ready to explode and give you this expansive move. And so this would be my plan right here for Ripple. I'd be looking to get in somewhere right around like $1.15, because if we could get a move back in here, I would just have a stop maybe below the, I mean, if I'm really wanting this to be a swing trade, I could go all the way down to the 786, because I'm still going to have a really great risk to reward. But I would probably still tighten it up, probably below this trend line and below the 618, and then target, the all-time highs is this red region which I had drawn. So I think if it comes out of this, it'll look like a 1-2-1-2, and then it'll lead to like this expansive move that we'll get to come up to here. And that's assuming that Bitcoin is done correcting and all that, because then altcoins will be able to run, or at least Bitcoin goes sideways long enough for something like this to play out. But such a strong break that I'd shown right here on the higher time frames should lead to more of an expansive move, because this was a pretty significant break of resistance right there, and we tested a support. I would expect it would lead to more of a move up to this resistance up here, and so that's why I'm looking at where I can get in on an entry. And since we've broken market structure, this was a downward bear channel that we were in. We've gotten above that diagonal. Just looking for a retest of support now, because that was resistance, resistance. It was support back here. So if we get support right here, then I would be looking for that to hold and for us to continue the breakout momentum that we had right here. So that's what I'm looking for on Ripple. Show the next biggest fib is on the higher time frame. Oh, we do like a fib extension. So Bitcoin, let's get rid of all this. If we go out to like a 3-day. So the fib extensions that I would be looking for are the obvious major pivots that we had right here. That's the ultimate target that I'm looking for in this bull run. Make sure this is on log, because it's such a big move. You want the fib extension to be on log, and you can see how we hit the 618 or the 1618 right there. So that one got realized, and a lot of times you can tell how much higher you can go just based on the structure that we formed to get to that 1618. So considering the fact that this move didn't look like this, see how it's 5-wave, 3-wave. I'm just kind of giving an example of what this would look like. And if we hit the 1618 and I thought it was going to be done there, I would expect the structure to have looked more like this. It would have come up in 5 waves, but we don't have 5 waves like that. I mean, it's just like one. This could just be 1-2 right here. That could just be a correction. This all right here could just be a 1-2, and now we've come up, which this isn't, like, I can't find clear 5 waves in this. I mean, you could find little small 5 waves in that comes up and hits that right here. So this looks like a 4. You know, this could be a 5 right here. And so, you know, I don't know that it's done. It could be done for a little while, and we have to come down, and then this is going to make more of like a macro 4 like we had right here, where we had a macro whoops, like this, right? This is going to be kind of confusing, where this was kind of a macro 2. This could be completed in 5 right here, and then we have to come in for a 4. So I don't think we're anywhere near being done with the bull run, because whether it goes up right here and has to keep going up or not, I don't know if that would be sustainable or not, or if we have to kind of come sideways and like this 5-wave structure. This whole 3rd wave is pretty much done, which, I mean, could make sense because we've hit the 1618, we've come through it. We might have to go sideways, but the next ultimate target for me for this bull run, after we get some kind of consolidation, or whether we just start moving up, is going to be up here at some point at the 2618. That would be my next milestone for Bitcoin when it comes to fib extensions. And we can also pull one from here. So assuming that this was the top of some kind of move, choppy correction, let's just assume that was a 2. So like this was some kind of ABC, like that. That's why I did the fib extension from that low to right here where it topped out, and then to right there where that ABC correction could have been done at some kind of running flat. Then you have you had a zone right in here that it could hit, and then you also have this 2618. So this could be a more of a conservative 2618, which I think is quite likely. I mean, that's just a little over a 2x to get to that one, especially if we go sideways and put in some kind of structure like this on Bitcoin. which I actually don't think is too far fetched for Bitcoin to do something like this, because it would give altcoins a chance to run, and a lot of them just look like they're ready to run. And so if Bitcoin did go sideways, altcoins would just go crazy, and then when altcoins are done going crazy, Bitcoin breaks out. And I don't know if it goes sideways this long. It's just drawing this kind of show that somewhat of symmetry right here, because this correction took a little while. This correction could take a similar amount of time. And then if for whatever reason this third wave is done, the four wave right here, if it was the same kind of length as that in time, I mean, it would have to take a little while. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have to go sideways, and then it lets some of the EMAs catch up on these higher time frames, and it lets altcoins run. And so we have kind of an altcoin season for a while. And then Bitcoin takes the show over, like once the altcoins are done and this breaks out. So if we put some kind of pattern in like this, I would at least be looking at Bitcoin to get to right here, because it's just such a strong reaccumulation. It would give us more of a support and area, to launch off from, to target this 2618 and ultimately this one up here. And so if we were to hit any of the higher fib extensions, which I don't think's going to happen in this, well, I guess it could happen, but I don't think it's likely that we go too much higher than this in this bull run at this 200K mark right here, or that 2618, before some kind of more substantial correction. But we'll just have to see. But I'm currently looking for something like, I mean, I see Bitcoin going sideways and allowing altcoins to run, because even if Bitcoin did this, Ripple would go to all-time high. So many altcoins would start really taking off with Bitcoin holding up like this. But to answer the question, the fib extensions are these: one at 123, 123K, and one at 193K are the fib extensions that I think are likely to be hit, just based on market structure. 5 wave up, 3 wave down, projecting off of that too, where the 3 or the 5 would end. So if this was the 3 right here, we've already went through the 1618s. Now I'd be looking for, if this 3 is done, I'd be looking for this 5 to be in here between these 2618s. But this 3 might not even be done. I don't know. It just depends on how you want to count that. This kind of just looks like a 1-2. This could just be a 3-4, and the 3 is not even, this higher time frame 3 is not even done. We have to come up like that, and put in, and then put in a 4, and then have a 5 that comes up. So but either way, this doesn't look anywhere near being done, and I expect these 2618s to get hit. One of them, at least that one, to get hit. 288K in October and November. I mean, for it to do that, Bitcoin would really have to not spend too much time sideways here and just start accelerating. And we'd have to be putting in some kind of crazy extended fifth wave, where this would, if that was going to happen, I would expect something like this, where it's putting in a crazy extended fifth, where the 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't spend too much time reaccumulating, and then for it to shoot up, because that would be sometime in October, for it to get up to like 280. And so it's definitely possible. I mean, just looking at the past, how Bitcoin's moved, it's certainly possible that it could do that. I just don't know how likely. And in that case, you would realize these 2618s. So I do think we're in a 4 wave right now. I just don't know how long it's going to take to resolve right here. And then I expect these 2618s to likely get hit. I don't know if it'll shoot up to 280 or whatever. I mean, if it went into a blow off top, it could easily go up like that and end up with like a crazy, top like this, where it shoots up and then it like corrects down almost immediately back down to lower levels, like in the 100Ks. So it's certainly possible, but the way to be looking at this right now is looking at this as a 4. I think that's the best way to look at it, because it doesn't look like alts are anywhere near being done, and for Bitcoin to go sideways in a bullish fashion like this, and a reaccumulation would allow alts to run, and then for Bitcoin to take the show maybe this summer, really going into the fall. But we'll just have to see how it plays out. All right, we can look at altcoins now. 1inch. I haven't looked at that one in a while. That was one that I missed out on back earlier this year. I actually haven't pulled this up in a while. I'm kind of curious to see. Interesting to see how my Elliott wave played out. Because I drew this right here, so it looked like it followed it for the most part for a while, but it didn't. It didn't continue higher. I'm gonna take all this stuff off now. Um, it's quite. I mean, this is definitely what you want to see because I like to look for impulses and then consolidations. You know, this consolidation that's taking place right in here. It's got a clear resistance up here and a clear support area down here. And so once it does break out, um, you could look at the fib extension. Just go off of this impulsive leg to the top and then go down to like the lowest point in the correction, which would have been right there. Or you could look at this as kind of a running flat and do it right here, assuming that might be the low. And so this would look something like that. That would be like an A, this would be a B, and that would be a C. And it was some kind of running flat where the C could not take out the low. And it channels like this, and then you kind of end up like that. And so if we were pulling it from there, assuming that that might be the low of the C, we don't even know really until we get above this resistance up here. But I would expect if it was the low and we were going to come up like this and attack this resistance, once we got above it like that, then this would really start to trend again. And what you would end up with is something that looks similar to this move up. One, two, it's like really shallow waves and it just keeps shooting up like that. So you would expect something like that. You can see how the symmetry on that works out. So if altcoins really start taking off, I don't know anything about 1inch and like why it should do something like this, but I would. I'm not personally getting any right now, but I would wait. If it does clear this high, I would be interested in it because I think that it could lead to the next expansive move like this, and it could, go up multiples of what it would be at the breakout. But just looking at the one-to-one, I mean, you're looking at the one-to-one up here at $30 if it's going to be the same length as this leg right here. So I would just be keeping an eye on it. If you are bullish on it, I would be waiting for pullbacks. Just be drawing your fibs. Wait for it to have these moves up like this. And then, assuming it did something like that, and then you're looking to get in on the pullbacks, be looking to get in at the 0.5 like that. If you're thinking that, it's bullish, you want to be trying to get in on the pullbacks. And then really when it breaks up here, then you can add even more. And so if you're already getting in down here, then you add up here, your average is still going to be below this resistance, and so you're not going to be too concerned if it's chopping around up here, if you've got some already in down here. So that could make some sense. I think 1inch does look good because it's reaccumulating right here, and so to me it's showing that it's projecting that we could go to $31 right here for a one-to-one if this is going to give us another leg like this. So we have to have another alt cycle where everything's going up like that, and I would see it doing this right here. Let's see, VRA. Can't remember if we looked at this one, but this is a good example. I mean, it did exactly what I was talking about there, except this is really just an accumulation range from its whole existence right here. Once we broke through that, you can see how it went crazy. So if we do like a fib extension, we never took out this low right here. So I assume that is like the first. This is like the first move that we had, and then the lowest point in the correction, which was down here. Or you have multiple lows to go off of, but just assuming this was like the first move, and then I don't know what all this stuff is. It's just a big accumulation, so I'm just trying to pull some kind of extension off of any of these lows. I could go from that low, kind of like where before we took off here, to project where some targets would have been. So if it broke above here, you could look at the 1618 and the 2618 to get hit. And now it comes down to figuring out how much is left in this. I mean, it was a really long accumulation, so the how high can you project off of an accumulation that took this long? I don't really know. I would say an accumulation that took this long, you would at least get to the 1618 and even at least to the 2618. And a lot of times when something takes this long to accumulate and it breaks out, you can almost bet on getting to the 2618. But without more structure, I don't know like if these higher ones would get hit. But does this pattern look familiar to something that I was talking about earlier? This one right here. This is what you really want to see before big moves. So that's a 1 2. This could be like a 3 4 5, and see how this was another 1 2. So you have a nested 1 2. And honestly, these big moves like this, it's just a bunch of nested 1 2s. And so this, let me change the color. I knew I was going to do that. So this could continue much higher. But see how this is a nested 1 2. This is what I'd look for. And see when it broke that diagonal, how crazy it went. And then especially when it broke the resistance right there. So this is kind of what I'm looking for on Ripple, this 1 2 1 2 looking structure coming off of a sell-off, because then you can project that you're about to start something really impulsive. And so this is usually a good sign right here of how strong something's going to be. But I don't really see anything on this right now that I get too excited about, because I just don't know how much more this is going to trend. I mean, it definitely looks strong and like it could continue going higher. And honestly, you could even draw another 1 2 like this, because that looks like a 1 2 3 4 5. And that whole 1 2 3 4 5 just completed this red 3 4. And now we have to come up for another 5. And then put in this 3 4. And then come up for another 5. And so normally when you get to the tail end of a lot of when you get to the tail end of a lot of 3 4s that look like 3 4s of the 1 2s that were down here, when you get to the tail end of those, you can start expecting a little more chop, which, I mean, this could easily go like 2 or 3x before it starts chopping. Just looking at this, I mean, it could do something like this, and then it has to chop, and then then you're basically putting in another reaccumulation that's kind of mimicking this accumulation down here where all these 1 2s took place, because you're finishing up all these 3 4 5s, and so it's going to have to go sideways. So this kind of looks like it's at the tail end of it before it's going to have to reaccumulate some, but it could potentially go 2 to 3x before it does something like this. But this is kind of what I'm looking at right now, because if we've already hit the 2618, I don't know if it'll just continue going up in a straight line like this, because we're getting towards the tail end of what looks like a bunch of these Elliott wave nested 1 2s, and we're starting to get a lot of the 3 4 5 structures coming in, which normally, if it's going to remain really strong, will give you some kind of new structure like that to buy, where this would be the more higher or the original 1 2, and it would give us something like that. And then we would be looking to maybe accumulate in this range once we start noticing this, or just wait for the breakout to buy. That's kind of how I would approach this. I'm hoping this is helping you guys like visualize what to look for and not jump into things that are like kind of at the tail end of what could be an impulse and it's going to chop around a little bit. Because you really want to be getting into things when they form structure like this that is repeatable, especially something like that. I mean, buying a breakout on something like that, you're going to be doing pretty good. And then you're just basically waiting for all this structure to play out to decide when to take profit. Let's see, algo. Algo looks really strong. I mean, algo is one that that I kind of wouldn't mind be getting exposed to already because it just screams a flat correction to me, or a running flat. We kind of took out the high briefly, I think, right there. Um, I talked about running flats before when we were looking at Bitcoin. What a running flat does is you have a sharp correction, and then you have a choppy grind that gets back to the highs or even takes out the highs for the B. And then you have a sharp correction again that looks almost exactly like the A. That's just a picture perfect running flat right there. And the reason I don't think it's anywhere near being done is because if you look at this, um, this this looks like it was a 1-2 because this didn't take out that low right there. So this could be a 1-2. This could be a 1-2. It could be a nested 1-2 right here. So this could be the 3-4, the blue 3-4, and then we have to come up for a 5. And then that makes this red. That makes this red 3-4. Like that. And so that could be that completing right there. And then you even have like the highest time frame, or the macro 3-4. I really should change the degree on all these, but you get the picture because have the colors changed. So that's a big 1-2. This looks like a 1-2 because that didn't take out the low. That 2 didn't take out this low right here. Another 1-2. So what you end up with is a channel. Let's see what we did when we broke above that. See how it just kind of grinded and grinded, and once we broke above it, we went parabolic. So that looks like a 1-2. That looks like a 1-2. So now we have to finish this blue 5-wave count. So we have a 1-2, 3, 4, and then we have to come up for that 5. And that'll just be the 3 of the red count, and then we have to go up. So for me, I really believe algo is going to hit this area right here at the 1618, because that 1618 is based off this big 1-2, and so that's usually a high probability zone. If this is going to remain impulsive, that's a high probability zone, if not going all the way to the 2618 by the end of this. And so what I would expect is for it to come out of this running flat like this, and once it gets above this high right here, it'll really start to accelerate again, and we'll get a push up like that. So algo could definitely be in, the correction could be in on that. I'm still holding spot algo. I got shaken out of my futures position on it because I got in like right here as it was breaking up. I thought it was going to start accelerating, and it broke out, so I got shaken out on that and took a little bit of a loss. But I'm considering getting back in now because we've reset. It just looks really bullish to me because we come back to this support down here, and the Elliott wave structure looks very, very bullish to me. It just looks like a reaccumulation, and we got all these 1-2s that have to resolve that haven't been resolved. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. It's like, it's gonna have to go higher for all this to resolve. I don't see any other way around it. Uni is one that I actually opened a position on last night, and the reason I did that is because this just looks too much like a reaccumulation right here. You got a lot of these 1-2s that have completed, it looks like. So you see how we got all this chop. That's kind of where we were at on VRA that I was looking at just a second ago. We were like right in here on VRA is kind of what I was showing. But now, see, Uni's already played out. It's played these 3, 4, 5s out, and now it's starting to get to what looks like the tail end of like a more substantial consolidation right here. See how the length of this consolidation right here, this 1 2 1 2 right here, how long that took before we had the breakout. We've kind of reached something similar right here, and so I'm kind of expecting this reaccumulation to break out soon, and we kind of start grinding higher like this. We get a little bit of breakout and some chop and retest right here, and start moving up. So that's why I've wanted to build a position in uni, just to be prepared for when it starts to, if it starts to move up like this, then I can start adding on some retest too, to build my position even more, in anticipation that this is going to have to lead to a 1 2 3 4. You can almost see it, like if you zoom out. I mean, it's just a very obvious 1 2 3 4. Like, we're going to have to come up for a 5. At least I would be looking at right here to that 3618, if not all the way up to the, if not all the way up to the 4236 of this whole move right here. Because I mean, uni got a lot going for it. I just feel like it's not going to be done as long as altcoins are really strong. It's the same way with Cake. If Cake had perpetuals on Binance, I would have opened a long on it already, but I just realized that they didn't. And so I'd been kind of covering this the last few weeks maybe, because I was looking at, that would be the place to get in. We were looking at that like a few weeks ago, and now we're starting to move away from that. And um, honestly, this right here could just be a big running flat, which would be super bullish if it was some kind of running flat like that. Then you'd be projecting for this to go a good bit higher. So if that was like a 1 2 and that was just a B C, I don't know. I mean, this could be a 1 2 1 2 again. See how this could be a 1 2, that could be a 1 2, and now we're looking for this to really start to accelerate. I don't see any reason why Cake won't do that, because I feel like it's perceived as undervalued. Whether it's like actually undervalued or not, I'm not sure. Just based on the metrics I've seen, it should be at least perceived as undervalued. So it would make sense for it to accelerate up like this. But we're kind of in a weird spot right now to be getting in. I mean, really, the place to get in was on this retest right here. It's hard for me to jump into something like this when I'm not getting in right on a breakout or on a retest, because now my risk to rewards all thrown out of whack. Like I don't like getting into something like right here, because it's like, then where do I put my stop loss on the daily? Because if I was trading up this time frame, like, where would I put my stop loss at? Would it be down below this support down here again? If I do that, then I need like a really big move just to get like a 2 to 1. It'd have to go 2x just for me to get a 2 to 1. And it's like, is that even worth it at this point? So it's weird getting in on higher time frames like this if you're not getting in on the retest, or if you're not getting in like right on the breakout. So like something like this, you know, that made sense to get in on that breakout on the daily, because you can set your stop loss really tight. Because if I was getting in right there, I would have my stop. Good Lord. I would have my stop like really tight right here. And then I would be expecting that this would be an expansive move, because this kind of looks like 1-2s, 1-2s. I would be expecting for this to be an expansive move. I can have a trailing stop, and you end up with a crazy risk to reward. But can't really get those crazy risk to rewards trying to enter into something like this right now, unless you're getting in on the retest and you expected that retest to hold. Then you could have gotten in there and had your stop loss relatively tight, and then you would have had like a crazy risk to reward, and you'd been set up nicely. So really what you'd have to do now is go down to a lower time frame if you're trying to get an entry on this, because you need structure to give you a tighter stop, because you don't want stops like that loose where you're entering here and having to stop down below the support down here. It just doesn't make any sense. There's a lot better opportunities to take than do something like that. And so I mean, the best thing that you can do now is just expect that every retrace is going to be a higher low, and so you can take a shot at a long on this by waiting for a retrace. And so like maybe we pull it from here. You can pull it from multiple pivots, so you can kind of get like a range. So pull it from that one up to there too, and try to see what kind of confluence we have. So you have structural support right in here, and that kind of lines up with this 382 and point 0.5 area right in here. So if we got a pullback like that, that's, you know, and you were expecting this to probably be a higher low, then you could actually have some bids in here and actually have a tighter stop, and you have your stop down below this point 0.5 and 618 or something like that, and then you can let this run, and then you end up with a really nice risk to reward if this is going to follow through. But you can't really get in on the daily because you can't see any of this structure, so you have to go down to a lower time frame. and and really, this, I would not take a setup like this, but it would be like based on if you're like fundamentally bullish and you expect there's like catalysts coming up and stuff, you really want to be getting in, and you're expecting all these higher lows. I mean, it's not a terrible setup. It's it's one that I would definitely be looking at if I was like really interested in a project, and I felt like it had the catalyst and like the pumpamentals, baked into it coming up. A lot of people shilling it and stuff like that. And then I'd be looking for the first pullbacks like this to try to get exposed to it a little bit with a tight stop, just to take that chance if it's going to make that run. I'm in it with a decent risk to reward, and not just FOMOing in and then saying, well, I'll set my stop down here, and then now you're waiting for a almost 100% move, just to get like a 2 to 1, which is just terrible risk to reward for something like this. It's just not worth it. Are there any other altcoins that we want to look at? Pull up ETH. We haven't looked at ETH yet. I'm really waiting for ETH to break out of this right here. I'm thinking ETH. I really think ETH might accelerate out of here once we finally get out of this consolidation. Ethereum just moves so damn slow. It just seems like it chops forever, and then like out of nowhere it'll just teleport up. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to end up with something like this, and then it just shoots up like that. Have to chop around some more in here like this, and then we just teleport like to 4,400. So I'm keeping my eye on ETH. I'm just exposed spot. I don't have any futures positions open on it because it's kind of in a situation right now. I don't know where to put my stop loss at. It's like, do I put it down below here? I guess you could just be looking for the first pullback on the lower time frames on this little leg right here and expecting that it's going to keep making lower or higher lows and try to get exposed on futures. But I'm just going to hold the spot and let this thing run at some point this year whenever it gets done consolidating. Are there any other altcoins you guys want to look at? Let's see which one. Orn is one that I'd talked about previously. We had pretty much corrected, and this is on log scale too, so where you would expect a 4 is between the 382 and the 0.5, and we've come to the 382. So if there's any time to be buying Orn, it would be right now, because this is very, very similar to SNX, the way that I looked at SNX earlier this year, because SNX had structure like this where we had a 1-2, big 1-2, big 3-4, came to the 382, and then we had to come up for a 5. And so I would be waiting for this channel to break right here and for us to come up. Maybe have to do something like that, and we put in some kind of this is kind of like what I would look for right here, something kind of like this, where we put in some kind of clear consolidation under a resistance, and then when we break through, you'd expect it to really shoot up. So there's multiple ways to play this. You either get in right here, you either get in on the breakout right there, or you get in on the retrace from that pivot low to that pivot high. You get in at the 0.5 to 618, which you know, a pullback like something like this would make sense. You get in right there, or you wait to get in on this breakout. That's how I would play this structure after we've come down in a channel like this. I would either buy the breakout, wait for the first major retrace, you know, that on this time frame that kind of looks like this, and buy that 0.5618, or just buy that breakout there. Buying this breakout right here is the best when it comes to opportunity costs, because usually this will play out quicker. But if you're trying to get the best entries on something, then you're trying to get in early. So I probably wouldn't even buy the breakout here. I'd just wait for the first retrace, because if you get the first retrace, it'll probably be about where the breakout is anyway. Just looking at this, because I think you'll get some kind of pullback, and it's probably best just to wait for the first pullback and get in, or just buy the breakout if you want to reduce your opportunity costs and try to get in on it right before it really starts accelerating. BNB. This whole thing right here tells me that like Binance has got a little ways to go. I just don't know where we're at in the structure right now. I don't know if these are a bunch of 1-2s, and now we have a 3-4-5, 3-4-5, 3-4-5, 3-4. You know, it's got to play out, and it's got to keep grinding higher. I don't know where we're at in the structure. Go down to a lower time frame. Well, let me do some. I've never done a fib extension on this based on this major 1-2 right here. So you see how that major 1-2 got the first consolidation at that 1618 right there. And now we're above that. Let's see if we can do another one based on this first move. So it's come, I mean, it's blasted through every one of those fib extensions on that one, so it's not really helpful. But looking at the major pivot, we've hit the 1618, but it doesn't look anywhere near being done based on how long we consolidated like vertically right here. It like accumulated in this channel going up and then broke up. So I wouldn't expect it to be done after one little consolidation and one more leg up after such a long consolidation like this. But I don't really know if we're, you know, like that's pretty far away. I mean, that's 5x away right there. So is it going to go that high? I don't see anything super clear on the high time frame like this for me to get behind. But on the lower time frames, you could be looking for some kind of entry. I just don't see anything that I really like or that I feel like super confident in jumping into BNB on, other than just like fundamentally being a good hold and getting reduced fees if you're trading on Binance. I'm kicking myself for not buying a bunch of Binance down here, because when I started that 10k to 1 million challenge for myself on Binance, like the first 2 weeks I'd paid an outrageous amount of fees. I mean, the fees that I'd paid was like, it was like 40% of the profit that I'd made in those 2 weeks when I first started. I mean, it was ridiculous because I was scalping with really big size relative to my account balance because I was trying to aggressively grow it. And so my fees, were really high because I'm using like a lot of really big position size and high leverage. And I was thinking about buying Binance because I wanted to get reduced fees, and it was literally right before we broke out of this channel, and I just didn't do it, and I'm regretting it a lot now because we're like 10x where we were. So there's no telling how much money I would have if I stuck if I stuck a decent amount in Binance to get reduced fees. But I definitely don't want to get, it makes sense to be exposed to it for sure, because I don't think it's done. Like, be exposed to it on spot or or if you're using it to get reduced fees, it makes sense to be exposed to it. Because I don't think it's done. But as for a trade, I don't really know what to do with it right now. It looks like it's flagging, so if I was going to take a trade, I wouldn't have very like aggressive targets if this was to kind of play out here. Um, I would be looking for, like if it did play out and we cleared that resistance, I wouldn't be targeting something like super, super high on a breakout like that. I really don't even know what I would target because I don't know if this how high this would go if it's got to chop around some more and do something like that. You know what I mean? And then you have opportunity cost in there because you're holding through this chop while some other coin's going like this. Um, so you got to be kind of careful with it. And I just don't see anything that catches my eye on Binance right now. SXP. Kind of think SXP. Let's see. Let me. Yeah. Kind of looks like that might be a running flat right here. Structure looks okay on that. This kind of looks like a 1-2. I mean, that is a 1-2. A, B, C. 3, 4, 5. A, B, C for a running flat. And the reason I'm counting it like this is just because I think that if some altcoins are done and we're going to get into another alt run, you would expect bullish corrections like this to where you would be looking for running flats and stuff. And normally with a running flat, what you want to look for is a hidden bullish divergence, where a hidden bullish divergence just means that you get higher lows in the correction. So between the A and C, it's a higher low. But if you look at the RSI during that period, it actually makes a lower low. So what it means is the strength, the RSI was able to reset without this actually making a lower low. And so that's bullish. It's hidden bullish divergence. And normally when that happens, you're looking at a retrace of the A to B, or you're looking at the retrace of the B to hold like the 0.5618. And so that sets up a lot of times these running flats. And the B will normally look like a three wave-ish move. It's not really five wave-ish. See how this was kind of three wave-ish right here? So the B is normally three wave-ish in a running flat or expanded flat where the C would have had to come down below the A, which we didn't get that. But the B is normally a three wave-ish move. The C looks kind of similar to the A. They like the amount of time they take to retrace, and then in a running flat it holds the 0.5618 of the B, and you have this lower low in RSI as a higher low in price, and that gives you the hidden bullish divergence. So the ingredients are there for this to be a running flat. Technically, all the ingredients are there, and so now now we can put some structure on it because we have this resistance. It acted as resistance up here. Previous all-time high, rejected. Now we're going to have to get back above that. So maybe the best strategy, if you're pretty confident it's going to go that high anyway, fundamentally, then it would make sense getting in right now. Because the risk to reward wouldn't be too terrible if you're looking at it like this. Like if you got in here and you had a stop below here, below that right there, and you're expecting this fundamentally to be bullish, and technically if this is a running flat, let me just project where we would go, just give you an idea of where your take profit would be. So if this is a running flat and we go from there to that 5 and then we go to that C for the end of the correction, then you would be at least looking to right there. And so that's a 17 to 1 risk to reward. And so that's, in this case, I could, like, I wouldn't mind getting in something like this. If it's something that I thought that had a good chance fundamentally, and then technically I can see the evidence that, you know, this could be a running flat, I would go ahead and get in and have my stop 23% away because I knew the upside potential of this pattern was pretty high to give me this really good risk to reward. And honestly, as long as it stayed in this range for it to expand, I wouldn't think that the 1618 would be out of question. And so, you know, and really once it starts unfolding, you just let it run for however long the structure allows it to run. So if it really came out of here, there's no reason in selling it right here at the 1 to 1 if the structure looks like that, because it just looks like it's not even done with the Elliott wave structure because you're looking for 5 waves. And so it's easy to let these run when you can kind of read the Elliott wave once it's underway. But that's definitely not a bad one to consider getting in. If fundamentally, it makes sense for it to do this because technically it looks like it's possible. I'd say the safest thing to do would be to wait for it to kind of come up and then attack this all-time high again, and then break it and get in on this break. Get in on the break right there. Because then opportunity cost might be less because it could chop around under this resistance for a little while. But once it breaks above here, I think it'll accelerate. And you won't be holding as long for something that's kind of maybe just chopping sideways under resistance. But yeah, swipe does look decent. It's one that I had thought about getting in beginning of the year as well. I was looking at all different kind of charts at the beginning of the year, and I was looking at this right here. We were under that resistance. We had just broken through, and I was considering getting in right here, which it really didn't move that much compared to a lot of other altcoins that I got in, so I'm not too upset about not getting into it. It was kind of sluggish. I mean, it really only went like 3 or 4x, while most everything went almost 10x. I haven't even looked at Bitcoin SV and I don't know how long. I'd be curious to see, like, how does anybody even hold this? I don't understand. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is what would be crazy is if this was just a accumulation before it breaks out. Fundamentally, it should never happen, but you never know. If it ever did get above there, I mean, it could go crazy, but I seriously doubt it ever does that. I would never trade Bitcoin SV. I mean, it's just a terrible chart when you look at it. There's not even that much. Well, I guess there is a lot of volatility. I mean, it pumped up. It's only 2x though. The volatility is not even that high, worth trading. Are there any other altcoins you guys want to look at? I'm about to be done, I think. I'll look at like 1 or 2 more though. Trying to think if there was one that I might have been missing. I hadn't looked at. Oh, FTT, yeah. FTT is another one that I didn't buy. I mean, it's the exact same thing as Binance, the BNB token. I didn't buy it on the breakout right here because I thought the only place I could buy it was on FTX, which I can't trade on there. I didn't realize that it was on Binance, or I would have bought some. I would have 100% bought some right here. But FTX is definitely going to go higher, in my opinion, no doubt about it. Alright, let's see. So, yeah, as long as this accumulated vertically, it's kind of in the same place as Binance, but for me, I think FTX has got more room to the upside because it is a lower market cap. They got a lot going on. I saw a chart the other day where their market share is actually increasing at a faster rate than any other exchange, and so I would definitely expect more upside for FTX this year. I just don't know. It's kind of in the same place as Binance. I don't know where it's at in the correction right here. Like, is it just going to continue blasting off? We got a lot of 1-2s down here, a lot of 3-4-5 looking structures. Like, I don't know if it's going to have to chop sideways, but fundamentally, I would like 100% expect FTX to go a few multiples by the end of the year if everything else is going to hold up strong, because they, according to that chart that I did see, their market share is increasing pretty rapidly compared to other exchanges. I think if I had to, I mean, the best place to have gotten in is on this retrace right here. Went right to the 0.5, retested the previous high here. That would have been the best place to get in. At this point, now it's kind of the same as some other ones that are really bullish like this. You just have to like go down to these lower time frames and wait for a pullback. Like, is this going to be done? Kind of three-wave-ish looking right now. So if this rolls over, I mean, you could be looking to pull a fib on that and try to get in on this pullback. But then you're kind of day trading at this point, because you don't know that this is even going to be done, because when you zoom out to the higher time frames, I mean, it looks like this could chop around some more before going higher. And so if you're on these lower time frames, you're really just kind of getting day trade setups or multi-day swing trade setups. Like, if you're getting in here, you'd be targeting maybe the local highs or something like that. But fundamentally, FTX is definitely one to hold, FTT, because no matter how long, what I would want to see on this, just for an example, is I want to see it do something more substantial in time. I want to see more of a consolidation. I don't know if it would look like that or if it would be more of a downward correction. Whatever it does, I want to be looking for I want to look for more of a substantial consolidation that I can channel and get a more clear breakout on. Because right now it just looks like we're chopping towards the tail end of something, and we could go sideways longer. And so I don't really want to be trying to get into anything like this. It just needs to go sideways longer if I'm going to be getting in for a longer term trade. So how that would kind of look a little more symmetrical, or you just get a little bit more better feel of something like that when you get more structure and it breaks out. You can get behind it with a tight stop and expect it to go to much higher prices. But I can't expect this to go to much higher prices based on the structure right now, because it just hasn't put in much of a consolidation. Look at Decred. So Decred has made its first macro cycle, 1, came down for its 2, and now we're in the third macro cycle, or the third wave in the macro cycle. And this correction channeled decently, because once it actually broke out of here, it's kind of a leading diagonal, expanded diagonal, leading diagonal, retraced, looks like it retraced to the 707. Yeah, came to the 707, which is very possible for the 2. Now we're in the third. So how much higher do we have to go in this degree of the third wave? That's really the question. Where are we at right now? I don't think that it's done with this third wave yet. I still think that it has room to go. Ultimately, where I expect Decred to go technically would be looking at this fib extension from here, because this was the first macro cycle that we had. And then we're looking at the where the third wave in this macro cycle will go. And so the 1-to-1 is a target. And so I guess what I would be expecting, because this structure to me is telling me that we're getting towards the end of something. I don't know if it's just going to continue going higher, if we're going to have to put in some kind of chop like this, and then we start going up. I don't know what this structure is going to unfold like over the next few months. It just, it's not something that I would get behind on just getting into it now. Decred was definitely one of those where you wanted to get in on the either the breakout of that. There was also this resistance right here. Where was that? Yeah, this one. Pretty much it goes all the way back to the beginning. And you had support, support, resistance, resistance, resistance. We broke above it. That was like probably the one of the most obvious times to get in, because it's just looks like a that was about when I got in, I think. No, I got in at $17 right here for whatever reason. I got into it mainly just fundamentally. And so you have the left shoulder, right shoulder, or left shoulder, head. I guess that could be the left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then once we broke that neckline, it really just accelerated. And so now we're doing something up here. I don't know. There's just not enough for me to get behind and entering it right now. I would much rather wait for some kind of corrective looking structure up here for a 4 and project up from a 5. Whether or not we get that, I don't know. It could keep going up in a straight line, but looking at this time frame, there's just really no good way of like figuring out where your stop loss should be, unless you're just buying it fundamentally and you're planning on holding it. And if it draws down 50%, then you don't care, and then you can get in whenever you want. And but for trading, you want to look for some kind of pattern to form. Right now, it's just in the same boat as some other ones like BNB and FTX. It's just kind of hard to get into them right now because they've just went up so much. You really want to see a little bit more of consolidation pattern so you can get behind it with a tight stop. Yeah, I'm recording this. I'm going to put it up on YouTube. So if you missed the BTC part, you'll see it. But I think I'll go ahead and end it here. I've covered quite a few. I've been going a little over an hour. So I appreciate you guys joining, and I'll be back. What's today? Monday. So I'll be back Wednesday, and I'll try to do it on time this time. I was a little behind this morning. I gotta get caught up on taxes. So I'll see you guys next time.